he is the DFO contact person for Drainage Act projects. So he'll be reviewing this project once it gets submitted to DFO. And so they were informed of the meeting tonight as well. And it's possible there'd be others as well looking to watch it on YouTube.
We're live.
But we'll carry on then with the discussion. So the last time we spoke, Linda and Diane, together about this job was about a year ago, just over a year ago now. And we looked at sort of a conceptual design there to provide an outlet. And Melanie, would it be, in the midst of all this technological wizardry, possible for me to share my screen?
I already gave you the powers.
Okay, let's see if I'm clever enough.
I knew you might have visuals.
Yeah. Share screen, here we go. And I'm going to use screen number 2, share.
Hey, Joel?
Yeah. Here.
Sometimes if you use multiple monitors, it won't work.
Okay.
Like if you're using an extended desktop, because we can't see anything, all we see is that you started sharing a black screen. You might have to get back on your main monitor.
Okay. And I'll do that. This is a real, because I have
if you want the watershed playing, I
believe it's working. Okay, good. Yeah. Because I struggle to survive with just one screen. All right, so the watershed, as folks are generally aware of, for the gully that we're looking to improve and do the drainage work on, is there at the east end of Betty Road. So everybody that's inside this black line received an invitation for this meeting tonight. So we wanted right from the outset to keep everyone that's affected by this drain, which for now I'm going to propose we give the name the East Drain. It's not particularly original. And if anyone would like it named after themselves, let me know and we could do that. But for now, we'll call it the East Drain. And so we had a meeting just over a year ago to look at what our conceptual thoughts were on how this would be improved and what we can do to deal with the bank instability and the erosion and things like that. And then coming out of that meeting, the intent was for us to look into the possibility of having this job given emergency designation by OMAFRA, because that would allow us to go in and begin work in advance of having a report without jeopardizing the possibility that farming properties would be able to also receive grant for a portion of their assessment. Now, when I spoke with OMAFRA last spring, then they indicated that it was not a case where they can do emergency designation. They prefer to do that only for existing drains. And so since this is not a drain yet, we were not able to get sort of the emergency approval from OMAFRA to carry on with sort of some work in the field before we have a report in hand. So that's where that stands. So the task really is for us to wrap up the design, get it to the agencies, and get a report filed as soon as possible. So that's more or less the highlights of what happened in 2020, and I'll freely sort of recognize that it was not as much as any of us had hoped could happen in 2020, and that's unfortunate that we didn't make more headway, and that's on me, frankly. But I do recognize that we don't want to let this languish, if you will, right? So again, I'm now going to bring my screen down a bit more to hopefully show another drawing. Did that appear for everybody?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So this is an updated drawing, Linda and Diane, that shows the east end of Betty Road and the culvert under the road. And it illustrates the existing gully with the instability that was noticed that really, in some ways, accelerated the process there in 2019. More on the sort of downstream part of the gully, closer to Diane's garage. And then, so as I look at this, there's sort of two things that we need to do from a drain standpoint, from a design standpoint. The first is there ought to be a pipe as part of the system, because that would carry the vast majority of rain events and sort of eliminate sort of an ongoing flow. And then there would be a path for the water to take when the pipe was full. So perhaps in a really serious spring melt event or a really serious summer rain event, there'd be an overflow route. And so we refer to that as a proposed swale. And on this concept that we've put out here, and this today is a great time for feedback, Diane and Linda, from both of you and anyone else that's listening in, Lloyd as well as the road authority. We have just run the pipe in a straight line because it's nice when you can look in one end of the pipe and know where it ends up. It would be an option for us to lay this pipe in more of a curved pattern just inside what would be the east bank of the gully, and then have the center line of the stabilized ravine or the stabilized gully more closely aligned with the existing route. But from my perspective, I'd rather see the pipe run straight, because then everyone will always know where it is. It runs between point A and point B, and there's no mystery as to what curvature it has without putting manholes and structures on it, because that just creates extra cost. And in this case, it's a short run of pipe. It's within sort of standard MOE guidelines for length of pipe between structures. It's just under 100 meters of pipe. So that's kind of the alignment for the pipe that we're recommending. And then what we're looking to do is backfill the swale so that it's not as steep and so that it's stable, most importantly. And so the cross sections that we have worked out, and this is just a bunch of lines on paper, until if we were in person and we could kind of point and explain it firsthand, it would probably make quite a bit more sense. But we're looking to have, at least at this stage, backfilling the swale, backfilling that ditch with material that would be brought in potentially, so that ditch could be, most of it would be mowable, right? So it would end up being a much shallower ditch than's there now. It would still allow water to overflow during major events, but it would be stable, and it'd be quite easy for you guys to look after from if it's lawn and you want to use it as lawn, go back and forth across it, et cetera, then it would more or less be lawn with a dish in it that has flat enough side slopes that could be mowed. So that's sort of the concept we're working with now. Now, in chatting and reviewing some recent correspondence from you, Linda, I recognize that your objective is for this thing to be stable, and whether it is mowable or not is that's not as much a priority perhaps for you, but sort of as I looked at the site and the sort of condition and the setting for this project, it seemed reasonable for us to, try to backfill this and get it stabilized, get it vegetated, and then make it easy for folks to mow and use. And then the most important part of this whole adventure here near the river, where the pipe would outlet, we don't intend to dump the pipe out right at the riverbank, because over time what happens there is that it becomes a very difficult to access maintenance issue because it's situated right on the perch of the edge of the of the river. And so what what we've done elsewhere and what I think is wise in this case is for there to be what we'll call an outlet structure, which is nothing more than a sort of a dished area where the existing ravine or the existing gully enters the river. That would be, made up of very large diameter stones, angular riprap and these kinds of things. And I think I showed you guys a photo of that, an example of that from another job, similar to what we did at Delorme Road, Lloyd, the outlet for that pipe. And one of the reasons, and I'll just mention this, one of the reasons that it's important for us to do as much stone work as I'm proposing we do is that
Spring thaw.
Oh, hello?
Spring thaw. What happens when the water level comes up in the spring? That will prevent erosion.
Exactly. Yeah.
In that area?
Yeah, that's the objective, because on this profile part of the drawing, we've collected river level data from the gauge that's right there at the bridge, and we've related that to our survey. And it's clear that different years have different high levels of river water, as you would observe and expect. But more or less every year, the lowest, say 20 meters or even 30 meters of this ravine experience a water level due to the river rising up and down. And so if that portion of the system can be armored with big rocks, then that'll stabilize it. And that's the objective. So those are the three main pieces of this design are a pipe, an overflow swale, and then a bunch of rock down at the bottom by the river. So that's kind of the concept design we've put together. And I can even say we've done an initial cost estimate. We haven't looked at all the details and sort of dotted our I's and crossed our T's. We'll have a more up-to-date cost estimate when we have our public meeting with the whole watershed. But our construction cost estimate for this work right now is between $50,000 and $60,000. So that's what we are estimating based on what we've put together so far. And one of the comments, Lloyd, that Sean had made for us to look into would be then up at the road where the existing culvert comes under the road, and then Linda's driveway culvert empties towards this ditch. Right there near the road ditch, we would put in a catch basin there as a place to take the flow into the pipe.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've been in discussions with Sean a little bit about that concept. And then
Okay.
the idea would be then water would, under all normal circumstances, run through the pipe. But if the pipe was full or say iced over or something of that sort, then water could spill over the overflow swale before the water level in the ditch rose to a point that would cover the entire road culvert or back up over Linda's driveway. So
Yeah.
that's the in fact, that spillover point for the swale is 1 meter lower than Linda's driveway. So
Okay, so there's room,
yeah,
lots of room.
yep.
Can I just say something quickly for those who are listening? I suspect they were all at one of the meetings. The reason for this thing in the first place is because the ground, the type of soil in this area cannot take the flow of water. Something has to be put there because it just keeps washing away. The more water goes down it, the more sediment gets washed into the river. And the pipe seems to be a solution for that. If the water isn't running steadily on through the ground, there's less collapse, and the water's not being washed out to the, or the ground is not being, the soil's not being washed out to the river.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there wouldn't be flow in the bottom of a deep ditch anymore, and then the other factor is there won't be backwater from the river loosening the side slopes of the banks either. So I think it's that's the direction we're heading with it. were you able more or less, Linda? I know you're joining us by phone, I believe, right? I think she's muted.
She appears to be, her mic
Are you
mic
able
seems
to,
to be muted.
are you able to unmute Linda from your end, Melanie, or is that maybe an automatic thing that the software did?
No, she's not unmuting. I can't do it. I can
Okay.
ask her to unmute though.
Yeah.
Do you know how to unmute?
Oh, there she goes.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I've been trying to fool around with it's Jeannick's laptop and everything disappeared. And now I only see a little square at the top. I could listen to you, but I was unable to talk. And I'm trying to call Diane and I can't get through to let her know that I need help here. Yes, so
Were you able to listen?
I was able to hear everything, yes.
Okay, good. And can you see the picture that I have on my?
Yes, it's very small because I can't put it life size or whatever the screen size, but I was able to understand everything. Like Diane said, I want to make sure there's no more damage to the property. Like I've explained to you, Joel, before, what the damage that is done is done. It's okay. The way it looks, I'm fine with that. I don't want it to get worse. And I want this to be fixed the most cost-effective possible. I understand prior I had said you need to repair everything and then put, you know what, I would be happy for it to work functionally and not have any more damage done. I'm very, very afraid of more damage that can occur on the property. I want to make sure it does not happen. So the quicker this is fixed, you know, I would have a ease of mind that no more damage will be done on the property, because there was a big, you remember on the side, there was a place where you could put your hand all the way down to the river. That next piece will be the next part of the land to fall in the ditch. If it could be repaired before that, I would be really appreciated. And so I understand what you're saying, to put that in. To me, that makes sense. But the thing is, I want everyone to understand, especially the municipality, this is private property. You have, you know, the municipality has used my ditch, our ditch, as a dumping for the river. And until the ditch were bigger, there was never an issue. The damage that is done to my property is a result of too much water coming in from the ditch, which were dug by the municipality. And I'm not sure why that happened, but I mean, we were, when we had the meeting in May, it was very clear that the Ministry of Agriculture did not approve that you use private land to get rid of water. And no one ever came here to assess the soil to be sure this could be, the soil could take this amount of water. It could not. There was a big damage. So right now, what I want done is fix the problem, keep the ditch as it is, but make sure there's no more erosion happening, and keep the cost down as much as possible. And but as a landowner, I want to know who will be in this, who will be included in this to have the payment. Sort of, are people on the north side, or it's only people on the south side? Because if it's just, is it south, like Carmen and Bouffard and Olivier and everybody on the south side? That's my question. Who is involved in this?
Yeah, so the only properties on the north side that are involved are yourselves and Diane. And then,
Okay, and which side of my property is involved? How much of my property is involved?
only from your driveway, then eastward to the gully. Just the east part of your,
Okay.
property. Yeah.
Okay, because the rest would obviously drain in the river.
Right.
And Diane, is it the same thing from their driveway to the ditch?
Yes.
Okay, so a very, very minuscule part. It's, we don't, we're
Under
not
the driveway.
put water in there.
Yes. Just
So
from-
my property was destroyed and my share of the water is almost non-existent. Right?
Yeah, correct. There's very, very little water that both of you have that goes to this ditch. I would agree with that.
Okay, so I want that to be very clear that my property has been severely damaged and my share of the water is almost non-existent. So
Mhm.
that needs to be documented very clearly.
Yeah, no, that'll all be noted in my report, because what I'll do is I'll list all the properties in the watershed and I'll have a number there for the area that they contribute to the drain. And so some properties will be considerable, and then yours and Diane's will be quite a bit smaller. So that'll be listed in my report. And then the other thing I'll just mention real quick, the other piece of assessments, and we'll talk more about assessments at the next public meeting, but the other sort of, there's two parts of assessments. One is the amount of area that a property puts into a drain. And then the other part of an assessment is what's referred to as benefit. And that's a different sort of part of the assessment calculation that I'll talk more about later. But what I've heard from you, we've talked about it, and I understand what your position is, and I've heard, so by the time we have that next public meeting, there will be some actual numbers that I'll put on paper in terms of outlet and benefit for each property involved. And then the other piece of assessment and money that will be explained as well at that next meeting will be what's called under the Drainage Act, the term is allowances. And that's where there is an amount of money that the Drainage Act requires me to include in my report and pay to landowners for use of their land for the path of the use of their land for the path of the drain. And not only the drain, but also a path or the route along the drain that is required to get in and fix it if it needs any maintenance down the road, because it's under the municipality's authority to do that at that stage. And so those allowance amounts for right of way and property damage would all be property damage related to construction and maintenance of the drain. That'll all be listed in my report, and I'll have preliminary numbers for everyone at the next public meeting.
And my question, my question, Joel, is the municipality's share in this. So you've talked about all the neighbors, but what is the municipality share will also be?
Yep, it'll be listed right in that same table, right next to everybody else's numbers.
Is that going to be during the next meeting?
What's that?
Will that be given at the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, I'll have those numbers at the next meeting.
Just one quick question. I know we don't want to go down the road of allocation, but I'm sure a lot of people are concerned, whatever the allocation is and whatever the levies are to these landowners, is this something that's spread over a number of years, or are they expected to dish money out of pocket in the first year?
Melanie would probably be able to speak to that better than I could. It depends on the municipality. So the timing for the levy is that it is not levied until construction is over. So, and we know what the actual costs are, because in my report, I'll make an estimate of what everyone's assessment is. So let's just imagine if a person's assessment was $100 and then we do the job and it comes in 10% cheaper than I expected. Well, then their assessment's only going to be $90. So we base the assessment on actual costs. So we wait till after construction to send those bills out. So in this case, it's all going to depend on when construction happens. Best case scenario, we build this thing this year and bills would go out. If we squeezed it in before the end of the year, bills would go out at the earliest in the first part of 2022. Am I right in saying that, Melanie?
I got bills that haven't gone out since 2018, so I shouldn't admit that. No, To answer Diane's question, yes, what we do is we offer, usually there's a minimum threshold, say anything over, I don't know, $5,000 or whatever we decide that number is. And anybody, when you get your notice, you'll be told that you may make arrangements to debenture it out over 5 or 10 years. And what we do is we lump all the people who want to debenture or amortize their payments out. We lump them all together and issue one debenture to the bank at the time of billing. So anybody with a large assessment will have an opportunity to pay it over a period of 5. We can't go more than 10, but 5 or 10 years.
Their interest charged on top of that?
Yes, there is.
Yep.
Joel?
Yeah, I'm here.
Joel? Yeah, it's John here.
Hey, John?
Maybe you can just mention the fact that this project gets tendered out
You just
to contractors.
Yeah. Yes, it would be tendered out.
And also that threshold of the engineer's report, and if the tenders come in at a certain price over.
Oh, right. Yeah. So we have a construction estimate right now for this part of the project. It's 50 to 60,000 in construction. So it gets tendered out. So there is a competitive process to get good bids. And then in the Drainage Act, if the tenders come in, if the low bidder is more than 33% over my estimate, then the Drainage Act says timeout. We can't just award contract to someone if it's quite a bit higher than the estimate. So there's a council meeting at that point to consider the tender that was received, and the decision whether or not to proceed goes to the petitioner. In this case, it'd be the municipality to decide if they want to proceed or not with the higher costs. So I just went through this with another drain. It wasn't my project, but I had some awareness of it, and the job came in over the 133% amount. But in that case, the petitioner was keen to get the work done and said, carry on, let's keep this rolling. And so they did. And that was what happened in that particular case. So it's just another decision point or another sort of checkpoint in the process, but that wouldn't come into play until after we file the report, put it out for tender, and then get bids. So
Joel?
I'm here.
I just wanted to, I don't know if we talked about all the other steps too, that, there are processes after the report, assuming the report would be adopted by council. There is an opportunity for people who feel that their assessment is either too high or too low. We never get the too high ones. But people who feel that it's been unfairly allocated, and they would be meeting before a small independent board that is appointed by council and not council members, who are called the Court of Revision. And the Court of Revision would then have the opportunity to hear their case and say, yeah, maybe it is too high. The only caveat to that is if they take it off somebody's assessment, they got to put it on somebody else's, because the bottom number can't change. Right. So there is an impact. If you lower somebody's, then somebody else's might go up. So, but there is that opportunity in this process too, if for people to have to have their case heard if in fact they feel that their assessment's unfair.
Exactly. Yeah. And it is the case in my report. I'll do some additional explanation of assessments at the public meeting, but it'll all be certainly detailed out in my report. And my duty under the Act is to assess the costs to my best judgment. But the Act provides this mechanism called the Court of Revision for my assessments to be altered by the court, and that's happened on my projects. So it's part of the work, part of the process. It's how the Drainage Act is set up. So
I have a question here from Carm, because I think she's up. She can access the volume. She's asking, what about the people? Are you going to take into consideration how long they have been living on Betty Road? Because some people have, she's been here since 2002. And Carm, sorry, I'm not understanding the message. You said And then some people have been here for over 50 years. Do you?
I think I understand what she's getting at. A lot of these homes have been in existence for many, many, many years,
Mhm.
and there has never been a drainage problem, but now there is. And these people feel that it's unfair that suddenly they're being levied with this big bill as a result of problems that have developed over time as a result of new build along the road
Mhm, mhm,
and deeper ditches and whatever else. So
mhm, mhm. Okay, yeah, no, I understand. I hear the question, and so the answer to the question is, when I create the assessments and the cost allocation, I do it based on what I see at the time. So, because I think it would be, I hear in general where the concern's coming from, but the challenge that I would have, well, there's two things I'll say. One of the challenges I would have would be trying to quantify, what was the share of flow in the gully in 1985 due to the three houses that were there versus what's there this year, because there's 5 or 6 or 7 plus a few garages and barns. So that's one of the challenges I would have. And then the other piece of this is that the Drainage Act is a forward-looking process. So I'm not, under the act, for example, set up to award punitive damages that have perhaps occurred, and punitively award costs due to damage that's happened in the past. I can make allowances for damages that happen due to my construction project, and I can assess costs based on outlet and benefit liability. But the act basically says, what is the drainage that's needed? What is the recommended solution? And how should that cost be shared going forward to build what we need to build today and then maintain it in the future? So it's a fair question. I hear where it's coming from. It would be a real challenge to quantify that from an engineering standpoint and then translate that to economics. But I hear the question, and that's my answer. I'll assess it based on the properties that are there today.
along the same lines, what happens with new builds? What assurances do we have that in 5 years from now, we're not going to be hit with more costs to increase the size of the pipe because there's a whole pile of new homes going in along the road? Will the municipality, in issuing additional building permits, issue development charges? Like, how is this handled going forward?
Yep. Yeah. When we look at watersheds, we do look, not only, we look at current land use, but we also look at what the zoning designation would be, right? Or the likelihood that there could be changes in the future. Now,
We don't want to overbuild this thing, but at the same time, we don't want to be hit with stuff in every 5 years.
Yep. So there's certainly one of the scenarios that does happen for us with drains quite often is that there's an existing drain that's there. So there's something that changes in the watershed. The classic situation is that it's farm property with a small diameter pipe drain that's working fine for agricultural use, and then a developer comes along and is ready to put in 500 houses. And what will happen in those cases is that the municipality requires the new owners of severed lands or the subdivision to do a couple of things. Besides do stormwater management, many municipalities are then requiring them, as well as a condition of approval, to undergo a section 78 process to improve the drain under the report, and then that cost gets assessed in large share to that benefiting property that asked for it. And I don't know, Melanie, I think you would probably be able to speak more knowledgeably to the sort of future land use potential. And
Yes, well, I was just going to point out that, first of all, this is a really little watershed. So this watershed only consists of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 properties plus the road. The biggest property in this watershed already has a house on it. And even if that house was severed out, another house can't be built on it because it's zoned agriculture and it can't be developed.
That's this house down here.
Yeah, that's Joelle's house. So that property is not going to ever have any houses on it. And the other ones, there's really no further development potential on any of those either, because the houses are kind of built right in the middle of the lot. So I would say the likelihood of anything happening in this little watershed in the future that would impact the drain would be very, very low.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine what could happen that would do that.
And I think, I guess another comment would be that the report that's also going on to the west clearly delineates that the service area for this ditch does not extend any further west than this divide right here.
It will not either, is what you're saying. There's no risk to us that the problems down the road are going to be redirected in this direction.
Exactly, because this report that's going on for this drain is proposing improvements to be done along the historic corridor. We've done an options analysis to bring this water all the way down the road and then this way, but that doesn't make any sense financially, and it doesn't make any sense considering what we're trying to address down here. So, and I've explained that to a handful of the landowners that I've talked with in the interim further to the west, Renee and Peter, I believe, mostly. But that'll be part of the presentation I give at the public meeting later in the spring. And then the other comment I was going to make, if there were future severances in this small watershed, someone, for example, decided to put in if there were future severances, the Drainage Act requires that those new small lots be allocated a share of the assessment that was originally made to the big lot. That way, every landowner in the watershed continues to bear a portion of future maintenance costs. And then the other reality is, given the size of the watershed and sort of standard engineering design practices, incremental increases in flow within the scope of what's likely to occur in this watershed would be adequately handled by the system.
Yeah, Joel, your watershed that you have established on this plan.
Yeah.
Your design is specifically designed to that watershed for that outlet pipe going through the Bazinet and
yes,
Reuse property.
Yep.
The Bazinet property.
So if that watershed was broken up to the west, say, that would cause you problems, but that would only be if somebody broke that watershed, and that would be, yes. That's not allowed.
Yeah, it's not allowed. Right now, the divide is Briette's laneway because he doesn't have a culvert under it, and so that is the divide now, and there'd be, and that's that's established in my report. It's his lane culvert would be under the municipality's jurisdiction, and so there wouldn't be additional flow that's going to be brought east.
Yeah, so these watersheds are very, very important, and it's very important that they're respected and that nobody goes monkeying around with them. And if somebody does see a watershed, is getting fooled around with, then the municipality should be notified, and the proper action be taken.
And that's when you show up with your big hammer, right, John?
And my big stick.
There you go.
Yep.
No, there's been on this project for the investigation for the drains further west, there's been considerable discussion over the course of my involvement in this about that particular topic of watershed delineation, and so that'll be something that I'll speak to when we're getting together later this spring with everyone.
So the meeting this spring is going to include both watersheds?
Yeah. Yep. Because the intention is right now this this road has, I'll zoom out a little bit. It has the municipal drains along this road developed over time as needs arose. And so there's 5 or 6 municipal drains just in this vicinity. So the appointment we've been already given is on the Garo drain and the Jengra drain. And so my report was going to deal with both of those under a single report. So my recommendation is with this new section 4 petition that came in after the initial investigation started, would be that this work that we're going to do on Linda's property, as well as the work that's going to be done on those other drains, all be presented in the same report to all of the landowners. Now, just because you folks would be at the meeting later this spring doesn't mean you're going to share in any cost or assessment for the work that's further west. Your share of the cost is related to the drain that you're part of the subwatershed for. But I think from the municipality standpoint, from a maintenance standpoint, it's easiest for them if they have one updated report that sort of documents where all the drains are, what are the current assessment schedules, because one of the other challenges that does happen in drain watersheds is that when there's severances, it's important for those assessment schedules to be updated. So when the drainage superintendent does maintenance, he can spread the costs out over the people that actually own the land in the watershed at the time. So that's kind of where I'm heading with it. So the name of the whole report might end up being something like the Betty Road Drainage Works, and then it'll just have all these individual drains that are still in it that are going to get improved or built for the first time.
Joel, I have a question regarding the municipality's share. How do you determine their share? You said like the neighbors, it goes by benefit and the amount of water that leaves, but how do you determine the municipality's share?
Their share is determined the same way, by benefit and outlet. And so in this case, they have not a lot of land area relative, obviously, to the big agricultural property to the south, but they certainly have a high level benefit to have a legal outlet for their water. So they'll be assessed benefit and outlet just like everybody else.
And I'm not sure if you gave that information. I might have missed it. Did you mention the how big the pipe would be in the ditch?
I may not have. We're looking to put in a 600 millimeter pipe, so that's 24 inches.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Pipe that's under the road right now is considerably larger than that. Is that going to work?
yes, it will. So the pipe going under the road is 3 feet. So a 2-foot pipe obviously has less capacity, but what we're putting in is a smooth wall pipe. And so it actually has more capacity than the corrugated pipe that's under the road. Or it would have more capacity than corrugated pipe of the same size. Yeah.
Understood.
So the excess water would not erode the rest of the property in the spring, because obviously there would be excess water, right? If it's a 3 feet culvert and that's a 24 inch, the excess water would flow down and it would not damage the property.
Yeah, the idea would be that the extra water would very occasionally, it would flow over the swale, but that swale will be vegetated and will be able to
Absorb.
handle the water.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's not going to rise high enough to damage the building around it?
No, because the gully will be low enough.
Because I don't want to lose my driveway, absolutely not. And Diane doesn't want to lose her garage. So you can give me 100% guarantee that no more erosion will occur on the property.
I can give you a 100% guarantee that her garage and this is, don't call my insurance company and tell them I said this, but well, what I'm looking up right now, because I haven't looked at it for a bit, is that, and this will, I'll present all this in May, but what's the design storm that we're designing to? So whether it's the 100-year or the 25-year storm, those kinds of things. So the pipe we're putting under the yard is being sized to the 25-year storm. So that's a storm that's so bad, statistically, it only happens, well, there's a 4% chance it could happen every year, but most of the time it would just happen once every 25 years or so. So it's kind of a squirrely way to talk about pipe sizes. But that's more or less,
The only thing I'm questioning as well, once the thing is, what worries me is when there's erosion, it could occur underneath. You don't see it until it erodes, right? That's what happened here. It's like you've explained, it happens underneath and then it collapsed. You don't see it collapsing until it collapsed. My worry is, what is underneath my driveway right now? Is there potential to collapse any time? That's my worry. It's like, how do we see that if there's erosion problem that we don't see as of yet? That is just like a time bomb that could happen anytime.
yeah, that's a good question. So when we did our survey along your driveway, and this is shown on the screen, I realize your screen may be kind of small, but one of the questions I wanted to ask today is whether you've seen any changing to the top of the bank near your driveway where you have that little parking area.
Mhm. I
Maybe-
don't think
No,
we've seen anything,
no.
but we didn't really walk the property. We should maybe do that. I will do that before the next meeting.
Okay.
Like just looking outside, no, I did not see anything.
Yeah.
But I did not check the width of the groove, like that runs to the river. You remember where you could put your hand in there? I
Yeah.
did not. I'm not sure if it wouldn't or not. I will have to verify
Yeah.
that. Okay, so
Because what I
hopefully if I don't see anything, it's because
it's
everything
okay.
is good.
Yeah, it's okay. At the foot of at the edge of your driveway, if you don't see any changes happening at the surface,
Okay,
then that bank underneath has also then not moved.
Okay.
That's what you would know. And I guess for an example of this, we do have a cross section of the ditch at your driveway. So that'd be right around station 55 or 60. So
Yeah, that's good, Joel. I was going to get you to bring up the cross sections, and maybe you could explain the pipe and what the cross section, the overflow.
yeah. So this is a picture right now. I don't know if does that appear on most people's screens?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right here, this with my hand, my little mouse hand here, I'm tracing where the ground is today. This is the existing ditch bank, and there's a note here that says edge of gravel. So on this side of this little drawing, we're on Linda's property. And well, here we're on Linda's property too, but we're a lot closer to Diane's. So this is the east side. So I'm standing in the ditch bottom and I'm looking upstream. So that would mean I'm looking south. And so this is the shape of the ditch today. And I would say the top of the bank we surveyed relative to the edge of your existing driveway is about 1 meter, right? Not a lot of space. From where you park to where the ground really drops off is about 1 meter. So what we're proposing to do is to move the location of the low point further away from your driveway over to, well, it would move about 6 meters to the east at this location if we stayed with the straight line swale design. We'll excavate some material to create that low point further to the east, and then some of that material can be then used to fill in the ditch that's there. And then there'll be a gentler slope coming off your driveway. And then the idea would be that we can get a good vegetation cover on this. And so it can easily handle the periodic flow that would be on the surface.
Okay.
Yep.
So the dark black line will be the new ground.
Exactly.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, and then the round pipe, the round at -10, that's the pipe.
That's the new pipe.
Yeah, so you're looking at a cross section, you're looking through the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how you look at these cross sections.
Okay, perfect.
So on the topic of these cross sections, Diane and Linda, any thoughts on this approach here, where we sort of move the center line of the low point a little further away from the driveway and a bit more into the midpoint of the property like this?
Oh, I'm okay.
I don't have any concerns about it. First of all, it's not on my property. But the issue is resolved. There's no more risk to my property, or in particular the garage, if there's a pipe there. I understand the concept of the swale and the rest of that, and even if there was a washout in the swale, it would rebuild itself over years, because it's vegetation. We're not paving this thing. It's a vegetated area. I understand that. Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Any, if the swale ends up being a little further away from where the existing ditch is, that's okay from your perspective, Linda?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
As long as this is the cheaper alternative, like we don't want to be increasing cost for the sake of appearance.
Right. Yeah, no, and I heard that loud and clear from Linda as well. And I appreciate you guys both voicing that sentiment, because in this case, the way I look at it is not just the initial cost. Would it be a few more truckloads of dirt now? Yes. And if we get to construction and we get tenders and we end up with really high costs for importing fill and doing the grading that I'm proposing, then we could revisit exactly where that swale location is to a minor extent to reduce the amount of material we have to bring in. But I think the thing to consider is, over the long run, the long-term lower maintenance cost of having a shallower swale that's easy for folks to mow is a benefit to the whole watershed. It's, because it means you don't have to see John Lindley very often. And
So then at the end, when it's all done,
yeah,
I would be able to cross over to Diane just walking?
I believe so. Yeah, the design we have. The design we have more or less would have you. You could sit on a riding lawnmower and you wouldn't tip over.
Oh, really? So this is we will be able to mow the lawn all across that ditch now.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
It would be what, half the depth that it is right now?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. It would be about half the depth that it is now.
Okay.
Yeah, so at the time of construction, like this plan and everything we're seeing is a guideline. So there is some latitude or flexibility in a little bit of fixing things, or if you don't particularly like something or like to see something a little bit different, within reason, there is flexibility too. So this isn't set in stone 100%. There is a little bit of flexibility, but we do have to follow all the design and that type of thing. So
yeah, certainly at this stage, with me putting ideas on paper, there's definitely flexibility. And then, like John said, once it gets to in the report and we go to construction, there are certain features of this that couldn't change. The size of the pipe, the way we design the riprap rock at the outlet by the river, the fact that there will be an overflow swale of some form that absolutely needs to exist. But, some of those, the specific location of the overflow swale or whatever, we would go down the path of doing it the way it's written in my report, unless there's a good reason to alter it. And the only good reasons I could think of is if it's going to cost a stupid amount of money, more than we estimated, or, there's you came in and said, well, we're kind of thinking we're going to put we need a 5-bay car garage here or something, right? So
Gazebo.
yeah, or gazebo, there you go.
But the pipe is going to be how far from the river? It's going to end how far from the river?
That's a good question. So the pipe is going to daylight. So the end of the pipe is about 8 to 12 meters from the edge of the water. So whatever that is, 25, 30 feet?
About that, 30 feet, yeah.
Yeah.
Égal avec le sapin, Denis.
What was that?
Égal avec le sapin. equal to the one
Okay,
Spruce
okay.
Street.
All right, okay,
And then rocks will be filled out.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So, this has been a very productive discussion. Any other thoughts? Or one of the things, Lloyd, I'll mention to you, we chatted about it briefly with Sean, that we do have to deal with is that there's a buried water line. There's a water main on the north side of the road, and it is, we think, probably I guess in the back of the ditch, sort of the ditch back slope.
Yeah,
So we'll figure that out during construction. We have room to wiggle this catch basin a bit if we need to.
yeah.
And
There's
that,
always a little bit of wiggle room when it comes to those sort of things.
yeah. And then in terms of gas mains along this road, did we,
I think natural gas is on the north side too.
okay. And would it be probably closer to the property line than the water?
I would think so, because we had the gas just a few years ago for us. Is it closer to the driveway or the ditch, the line, when they brought it in? Middle?
It's about in the middle.
Okay.
It's about in the middle.
The gas line?
Joel,
Yeah,
Joel, maybe we should get locates and maybe expose the gas line and the water line to see what elevation they're at beforehand. Might
yeah,
might be a good idea.
yeah, that would be something we can look into. The backup plan, if those are in the way, is gonna be fairly straightforward, because we can just even shift the catch basin onto the inside private property, because it'll be part of the drain. So whether it's on the road allowance or inside private property and out of the way of the gas line, it'll all still function the same. So
Because you're gonna dig the ditch a little bit there, I guess. Right after the culvert?
yep. So right after the culvert, there is
Mhm.
going to be a fairly deep hole, because we got to dig in a catch basin and a pipe. So there's here, the digging we do here will be deeper than the existing ditch as we lay the pipe. Yeah.
Okay,
In fact, this pipe is going to be, maybe 1.2, 1.5 meters lower than the existing ditch.
ditch right now, okay.
So it's gonna be set up like a catch basin, the rock with the pipe below it. Is that right?
Yeah. There'll
Okay.
be a catch basin in the ditch bottom to accept the flow. And then it drops even further down into a pipe, which should have good frost protection. The other thing that helps us with frost protection would be when snow cover, right?
Yeah.
But I'll be quite eager, Lloyd, to get more input from you and Sean as far as catch basin, sort of the finer points of catch basin design, so that they are more resistant to trouble during the spring melt. So
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Northern Protocol.
Yeah, Northern Protocol.
I am talking for Kitchener, I admit it. So those are pretty much all. And then in terms of finishing the property when it's all done, the concept there would be to have some topsoil and some seeding that we would do. We wouldn't plan to import sod or anything like that to cover the whole area, because it would take a pile of water. Of course, you have a river nearby, you could water it, but we would get topsoil and seeding.
Okay.
And the contractor would be responsible probably for like an initial watering. You
Okay.
see how it's done, and then it would more or less be Mother Nature or the landowner's initiative to look after watering.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
But we don't, and then the other thing that is typical with all drains too is when we're constructing them in one season, we then enter winter. And things happen over winter in terms of a little erosion here and there, small little patchwork cleanup that then has to get dealt with when the snow melts in the spring. And that's fairly typical, and that would be part of the cost for the project up front. It's what we call the warranty period. So.
Joel, can we look at the cost of hydro seeding versus seeding? Maybe, just see what the difference is.
Yeah, no, I would lean towards hydro seeding because it has usually better success.
Yeah.
And it's for the headache, it's oftentimes worth the minimal expense, but we'll look into that.
Yeah, that would be nice. That's what they do when they near the highway, like green stuff.
Yep.
Yeah,
just spray
that
it.
works good. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it holds the banks better and it retains more moisture and everything too as well.
Yeah, they mix sort of a mulch. It's kind
Yeah.
of straw mulch
Yeah.
with
And that stuff grows on anything. It'll grow on.
Exactly.
You can put it on pavement. It'll grow.
Yeah.
I'll put a note on that.
So you're going to work from. The work will be done from.
Diane's side, but still our land, but it's going to be like the machinery will go on that east side of the ditch, I guess.
Yes, we would not. So the access for the work would be done from the east side of the ditch, right off the road, even if they have to put in a temporary culvert or something to get off the ditch. Get over the ditch, because you guys have a paved driveway, and we don't want to have equipment on that.
Yeah, no, it's not on the paved the driveway. It's behind my house. We have the septic tank and everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about the riprap. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Here, this is perfect. Give me 1 second. What I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to have you. I'm gonna try to draw a bit of a shape for where your septic is. This part of your septic right here?
We don't see
It's
that.
completely to the left of the property.
Oh, okay.
It's not even close to the ditch.
Oh no! It's to the left of that pool.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Then-
Oh yeah, no, it's not.
It's
even
more on
close.
the west side of our property.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So then there's, from a utilities standpoint, there's nothing under the ground in here we need to worry about.
No.
And then Diane, on your side, we're gonna ask them to be careful with this tree. I don't see a reason why we need to disturb it. They'll be working around it, but hopefully it can stay.
Yeah, it's very steep behind our garage. It really drops off quickly towards the river. I don't know, unless they're really coming in on the other property. I don't do construction, so I don't know how they're going to get at it, but I can tell you where those spruce trees are. That's a very steep drop. You're not going to be able to bring equipment in there.
Yeah. My thinking is that they're gonna actually sit in the bottom of the gully with a machine to actually build this riprap outlet structure. That's how it's all gonna be done. And it's tough access, but that's just always the way it is when we're working in near an outlet, but like this. So that was my thought. So yeah, I don't see a need for them to use your laneway, your driveway, or anything. Or like I say, mess up that tree. And then you guys had mentioned the scrubby trees that are obviously growing in the ditch.
Yeah, no. If they need to go, they need to
Oh,
go.
yeah.
Yep. So they'll be gone, and
Okay.
you'll end up with lawn.
Yes. No. You know what? I it's not a big deal.
No, at all.
Okay. Yep. You had mentioned that, so I appreciated that comment.
Yeah.
All right. I think, is there any, John or Louis, can you guys think of anything else that I ought to mention design wise or ask about at this stage design wise that we need input on?
I think you've covered it well, Joe. Joel, I would just probably leave this as it is and let everybody digest what they've heard here.
Yep.
And if they have any thoughts or concerns, they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, exactly. That sounds good. Okay. So like I said, with this discussion wrapping up, next steps for us are to put our design package submittals out to the agencies to get their review and any comments or input we need from them. And then finalize our detailed design, our assessments, and then set up another public meeting. And the format of that is anybody's guess. I don't know if you have if you have a crystal ball, Melanie, if you could let us know what it says about how we would do, because I am quite interested in a few things. I would really like to, once we hear from the agencies, get this thing to a report stage where I filed the report with the municipality late spring or early summer. And then, like I say, if we're ambitious and things go well, there'd be a chance to build it this year. That's a fairly slim chance, unfortunately, but I think we ought to shoot for that. So I think here's my thought, Melanie, and you can let me know what you think. For this public meeting that we're going to have later in the spring, we would probably be best served to do it in this format.
Well, we've been, obviously under the Planning Act, we've been doing all of our statutory public meetings like this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we send out notices and we put the link so that you can participate. You can either dial into the meeting and participate like we're doing here, or you can just choose to watch on YouTube. And we've been doing that with pretty good success for the last year. People are starting to, really get it. I think everybody in the world is getting used to this new format because this is what it is.
Yeah.
So we haven't found, and we do try to help people who are, we recognize not everybody has the computers. We encourage them to, maybe get together with their neighbor who has one or whatever. No, you're not allowed to do that at the moment, but we do try to do it. And you can always phone in. That's the thing. You can always phone in. We always provide the phone number and the passcode.
Yep. And so what I would think we ought to do, just because we know for sure it's going to be possible, would be to do the next public meeting as an online meeting. I would probably though actually be in Sturgeon Falls for the meeting, and then create the option or have the option that same day or maybe the next day then for if people want to meet with me on site to talk further about any questions or in very small groups outdoors kind of situation, then that would be available so that truly everyone would have an opportunity to ask me questions or give me input or make final comments. I think that's the way that's going to make sense. So
I'm good. I'm good with the meeting. Thank you very much, Joel. The only thing is I want to make sure it's on record that I don't foresee anything to happen, but if ever something happens between here and by the time you repair this, the municipality is responsible because this has been dragged for a long time. And like I said, I don't think anything will happen. It looks stable, but if ever something happens between now and whenever you repair this, something serious, I will not be responsible for this. I mean, the municipality needs to be accountable for that. So that's all I need to say.
okay.
We'll cross our finger. I
Yes.
don't want to lose anything.
Exactly. And what are conditions this year right now? Are you watching the river? Has the river hit its peak and it's started to go down?
I think so. There was not a big, thank God, there was not a big, the river, I don't think even went up a little. I mean, no, the flow went out quick, but there was not a lot of snow. So it came up like normal, but no, it wasn't that bad.
We've seen higher before, quite higher.
Yeah.
The ground is very dry for this time of year. From a farming perspective, it's dry. This is not a wet year.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. I don't foresee anything, but just to be safe, I want it to be recorded that I said that.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Well, to all our all our loyal fans on YouTube. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed the show.
We'll be famous tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other items for us, Melanie, from your perspective?
What I wanted to mention, Joel, was I know my direction from council was to get this done as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Just to make up for the fact that there was been such a lag.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean to say hurry, but could you? I know, both the municipality and the affected landowners want to see this, dealt with, and our friends down a little farther down to the west want to get their situation dealt with as well. So,
Yeah.
no pressure or anything, just
No.
soon.
Joel, you just got your marching orders.
I realize.
Well, I lied to them and told them the end of April, but I'm thinking no way.
For my report.
Yeah,
Well, I
I'm
can call my buddy at DFO and get him to do a 2-day turnaround on his review. And
yeah, I know that's not going to happen.
Okay.
No, just as quickly as we can, and I'll keep council up. I'll bring council up to date on this meeting, and let them know that we've met and we're moving along, and the preliminary design has been shared with the landowners, and
Yep.
to let them know we're doing stuff.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. And one of the good things that is happening with DFO is more communication at this stage in the project process. And so we can get kind of a pretty good handle on what their concerns or priorities are from a fish standpoint early on. That way we can expedite that review time and those sorts of things. So we'll do everything we can. All right. Well, I believe that's the end of my speech, folks. I'm glad we could have this time together, and look forward to talking. Well, the next thing that will happen then would be a mailed out meeting notice for the next meeting.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Have a
Thank
good day,
you.
everybody.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Take care. Bye bye.